Sharon Core, How Mark Carney Commanded the Room at Davos and Declared Canada's Independence. By Sharon Core, political analyst and former Deputy Chief of Staff to the Minister of Finance. For years, the World Economic Forum at Davos has been a stage for a specific kind of Canadian performance. Polite, predictable, and firmly rooted in the rules-based international order. But this week, Prime Minister Mark Carney didn't just walk onto that stage, he dismantled it. In what was arguably the most consequential foreign policy address by a Canadian leader in decades, Carney signaled the end of our vassal state mentality and declared a new era of Canadian independence. A rupture, not a transition. Carney's presence in the Swiss Alps was not that of a hopeful middle-power leader seeking approval. He spoke as a man who understands the machinery of global finance and power better than almost anyone in the room. His message was a cold splash of water for those still clinging to the nostalgia of the 2010s. The old order is not coming back. We should not mourn it. Nostalgia is not a strategy, Carney told the Assembly. He described the current global state as a rupture, not a transition. For Canada, this means acknowledging a harsh reality. The protective umbrella of American hegemony is folding. With the return of aggressive protectionism and might-makes-right diplomacy from Washington, Carney made it clear that Canada can no longer go along to get along. The new Canadian doctrine, strategic autonomy. The core of Carney's speech was a declaration of strategic autonomy. He laid out a blueprint for a Canada that is economically resilient, moving beyond naive multilateralism to build variable geometry coalitions, issue-by-issue partnerships with like-minded middle powers. Security-focused, standing firm on Arctic sovereignty and supporting allies like Greenland and Denmark against great power intimidation. Pragmatically diverse, defending the recent strategic trade pivot toward China and India as a necessity of survival, rather than a betrayal of values. Commanding the room. What struck me most was the shift in tone. For too long, Canada's global brand has been moral futility, critiquing others while our own strategic options decayed. Carney replaced this with a technocratic steeliness. He didn't mention Donald Trump by name, but he didn't have to. When he spoke of nations becoming subordinated through integration, every leader in that room knew he was talking about the risk of Canada becoming a mere satellite of a volatile U.S. administration. By framing Canada as an energy superpower with sound finances and the world's most talented population, he wasn't just pitching for investment. He was setting the terms of engagement. He effectively told the world that Canada is no longer for sale to the highest bidder. It is a partner for those who respect its sovereignty. The path forward. Carney has set a high bar. The Declaration of Independence is the easy part. The execution, rebuilding our industrial base, securing our borders, and navigating a fractured global economy, will be the work of a generation. But for the first time in a long time, Canada isn't just at the table. We are setting the menu. Mark Carney's Davos special address. This video provides the full context of the Prime Minister's speech, allowing you to see the commanding presence and rhetorical shifts that defined his appearance at the World Economic Forum. I won't do that. Trump reassures Davos amid Greenland annexation fears. Davos, Switzerland, addressing a room of wary world leaders and nervous investors at the World Economic Forum on Wednesday, President Donald Trump delivered a characteristic blend of territorial ambition and unexpected reassurance. While doubling down on his claim that the United States should own Greenland, he explicitly ruled out the use of military force to achieve it. We probably won't get anything unless I decide to use excessive strength and force, where we would be, frankly, unstoppable, Trump told the Assembly in the Swiss Alps. But I won't do that. Okay. I don't have to use force. I don't want to use force. I won't use force. Our territory. The president's remarks come after weeks of escalating tensions that have seen him threaten 10% tariffs against 8 European allies, including Denmark and the UK, if they continue to oppose his bid. Trump argued that Greenland, a semi-autonomous territory of Denmark, is geographically a part of North America and therefore essential to U.S. national security. This enormous unsecured island is actually part of North America, Trump asserted. That's our territory. He characterized the request as a small ask given the decades of U.S. military support for NATO, while simultaneously labeling Denmark ungrateful for historical U.S. protection dating back to World War II. Strategic ambition versus global anxiety. The president's pivot toward immediate negotiations instead of force was seen by some as an attempt to calm markets. Following his recent tariff threats, major U.S. stock indexes suffered their worst losses since October. However, the speech did little to mend fences with European leaders. French President Emmanuel Macron had earlier denounced what he called a new imperialism, while Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney warned that the rules-based order is fading. What I'm asking for is a piece of ice, cold and poorly located. You need the ownership to defend it. You can't defend it on a lease. President Donald Trump. Key takeaways from the address. Military force ruled out. For the first time, the president explicitly stated he would not use excessive strength to seize the island. Negotiation demands. Trump called for immediate negotiations for full right, title, and ownership of Greenland. Tariff pressure. Despite the softer military rhetoric, the threat of economic retaliation against European holdouts remains on the table. NATO tensions. Trump questioned the value of the alliance, suggesting that the U.S. is treated very unfairly by its partners. The president concluded his remarks with a warning to those who might block his path. You can say yes, and we will be very appreciative. Or you can say no, and we will remember.